Hey folks, Mark Levin here. Now, before we dive in today's episode, I want to talk about something truly valuable, protecting your financial future with gold. It's called diversification. Now, for that, I only trust Advantage Gold. They're the real deal with 5-star service and a sterling reputation. So give them a call today. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. Trust me, you'll thank yourself in the future. Now let's get to the show. Results may vary. Consult with your financial professional.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811. Hello, 877-381-3811. I've been chomping at the bit to get on the radio today. First of all, good news, I think, for most, right? Not the Levin haters, of course. Cumulus Westwood One and I have signed an extension to my contract, which will go on several more years. So I want to thank you in the audience. That's thanks to you, our loyal affiliates. I want to thank them. We will be here. We have new and exciting things we're doing with our platforms. We are growing the podcast as well. And we're using every new technology, cutting-edge processes that we can to reach as many of you as possible. This is both a national and international program, but also a local, state, and regional program. We cover everything. We cover the field. And honestly, we've seen it all. At least we think so. And then the next week, we see things that we shake our head about. And I want to thank again all of you, my loyal listeners for over 2 decades. We started on a station called WABC when it was owned by the ABC radio networks. And we expanded from there. A Sunday show from noon to 2. A fantastic program director, Phil Boyce, who said, man, this guy's got talent. And offered me, to do 12 to noon, but management wouldn't pay for it. I said, that's fine. Sunday noon to 2? He said, yeah, it's a tough slot. It doesn't do great. I mean, it's noon to 2. You're up against football. I said, I don't care. I want to learn how to do this. It's something I wanted to do since I was a teenager. So I did it. And the response in New York was enormous. And so they asked if I would. Well, that's not what after 14 months, I decided to hang it up. I said, okay, that's great. And they said, no, don't do that. We've been trying like hell to fill this slot at 6 p.m. And they tried everything. They tried 2 hosts at a time. They tried a main host with sort of a guest host. They tried one host, female host, younger host, Democrat host, this. And they said, we want you. I said, okay, so from 1 hour, I said, 6 to 7. Then they said, well, 1 hour really isn't enough. How about 2 hours? I said, okay, I'll do 2 hours. Then they said, look, the station across the street, WOR, they've got a host there, very strong, good host. He's now going 3 hours. We need you to go 3 hours against this individual. And so I effectively changed my career. Not completely. I've always had an interest in the law. And so it was 3 hours. We defeated WOR, a wonderful station, a historic station, a station I often listened to as a young man. And I have friends over there, obviously. I have friends in iHeartRadio. But we continue to crush WOR from 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time on WABC. All hours, all demos. So the head of the ABC News radio network was a very good man. His name was Mitch Dolan. He got together with Phil Boyce, and they decided they wanted to syndicate the show, but they didn't tell me. So there was a host, as I understand it, in Dallas on WBAP, who they were removing. I had no idea. They just said the individual was ill or was absent or on vacation. Would I mind if they broadcast my program in Dallas for 2 or 3 days? I said, no, go ahead. What do I care? They decided they wanted to keep the show. Then it was Milwaukee, WISN, with the fantastic Jerry Bott there. An iHeart station. They said, we'd like to take Levin. So that is the longest, the oldest affiliate I've had outside the owned and operated old ABC stations. And so it spread like that from there. And now we're in every top 10 market in the nation, 21 out of the top 25 markets, over 400 stations. I know there are people in 600-700 stations, but there are stations that are stations in name only and they don't have a signal. We don't focus on that. We had requests from satellite radio when it came into being. Some hosts decided, no, we want to keep pumping up our ratings on a terrestrial radio. It's best we not have additional platforms. I said, let's bring it on. Every platform imaginable. Why not? Don't fight technology. We can do great on terrestrial and great on satellite. And we do. Because, it kind of divides up the audience, but you've got to have 1 foot in the basics, 1 foot in the what I call the mothership, which is terrestrial radio. But you can't pretend there's not satellite radio, and then, of course, there's podcasting, and we do that too. This program right now is run simultaneously on podcasts. It's often in the top 20. It's basically the same show as I do on radio. And so you have to be able to navigate these things. And even local stations now are trying to podcast. Every syndicated show tries to podcast and so forth. I just do my show. We have a YouTube channel as well. And, of course, we have the mothership, the website, which used to work. I don't know if it's still up today or not, Mr. Producer. We're back and running. Well, that only took 4 days, but there it is. The mothership is up and running. And I don't have a phalanx of staff here. It's me, Mr. Producer, who's not just my executive producer, Rich Cementa. He's the engineer, and he is fantastic. There's nobody better. My affiliate relations man, Darren Melito, who's been my affiliate relations man since day one. Our wonderful call screener, Steven. I haven't had more than 4 or 5 call screeners. And we have one great call screener, Richie Valdez, who's gone on to be a broadcaster. We've had substitutes on the program, fantastic people. Ben Shapiro, Dan Bongino, others, our buddy Michael in Houston. Even now, Rich Cioli. We have our man Larry O'Connor. We have Ferguson, who's fantastic. Mudd, also fantastic. I believe in helping to develop a farm team. It's not me developing them. It's them having an opportunity to have a platform. I'm very proud of that because I'm not going to be here forever. God knows I could drop dead behind this microphone. We've had tremendous stability in our affiliates. Tremendous. In every major market in America. Tremendous affiliates. We've had stability. We've had program directors, general managers who've understood radio and the markets. And we've had small ownership, large ownership, corporate ownership, the whole deal. So I'm very proud of you because wherever we go, you seem to follow us. It's a very vigorous audience. You are an audience that wants to know, learn, believe in our country. This is why I call this program Radio Free America. This is why I call this format ours. Our national town hall meeting right here, every weeknight. 5 days a week, 3 hours a day. And it's because of you. And I want to thank you. And we do things behind the scenes that I can't really get into to try and help individuals from time to time, to try and help charities from time to time, that sort of thing. I don't want to get into it because. But I'm very blessed, really. Now, to be honest with you, I've agreed to this extension. I'm very proud of the relationship the Cumulus Westwood One and I have. I'm very proud of the relationship I had with Citadel, which they acquired. I'm very proud of the relationship I had with ABC Radio Networks, which was acquired by Citadel. And I would say 99% of the time, just 1 or 2 examples that I've had to deal with. They say, Mark, it's your program. Do what you need to do what you want to do. It's your audience. And I will always remember what Rush Limbaugh told me. Always. You're on the air because of your audience. The loyalty of your audience. Some hosts have huge audience, some hosts have smaller audience. But as long as your audience knows, and you demonstrate it every day, you come to the microphone working hard, you come to the microphone with something to offer, you come to the microphone with substance, your own personality, and that you respect them and you respect their intelligence. They will listen to you. They will be loyal to you because you're listening to them and you're loyal to them. There's some people in the radio business that will never understand that. The vast majority do. There is no secret in the fact. You can read it in trades. I don't read a lot of trade stuff, but you can read it in other media, business pages. You know, cable subscriptions are shrinking. And so you see more and more cable companies. You even see Fox pressing hard on digital, pressing hard on Fox Nation. I'm part of Blaze, which Conservative Review TV acquired, and we combined. It's very, very important. It's growing massively. Digital is growing massively. Podcasting is growing massively because there's a level of freedom involved in that. Honestly, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. But in the end, I decided this. I will keep doing what I'm doing. We will expand in areas. We have some very exciting projects underway. Cumulus, Westwood One, and I. We will continue to reach as many people as we can with the best broadcasting available, radio, podcasting, however you receive it. And there's really no reason to pick one or the other, is there? And so I'm just very excited that this was done, and I'm very excited we're going to be together for many more years. Now I'll get to the substance, and there's a lot, as soon as I get back. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, the war on our justice system, the vicious assault on President Trump, has sent our nation into uncharted waters. And trust me when I say things are going to get worse before they get better. I truly believe that. The political turmoil and uncertainty that lie ahead could have severe consequences for our economy and financial markets. But in times of crisis, there's always opportunity. And right now, I see that opportunity in diversification with gold and silver. As these tensions rise and the dollar's future becomes increasingly uncertain, gold has the potential to go even higher. That's why I trust Advantage Gold. They're experts at helping Americans take steps to help safeguard their wealth with precious metals. Call them right now. 800-900-8000. Don't wait. Get their free 2024 gold and silver kit, plus a special Mark Levin discount worth up to $1,300 if you qualify. The future may be unpredictable, but your financial security doesn't have to be. So call Advantage Gold right now. 800-900-8000. There's no risk. There's no pressure. That's 800-900-8000. Get your special Mark Levin discount worth up to $1,300 for qualified customers today. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. Well, we only have a minute, so let me start this way with something I wanted to leave for later because it's not ultra important, but it is interesting. It just shows you the way I think. You have this guy, Lloyd Doggett. Lloyd Doggett's been around a long time. He's a left-wing, hardcore, senior Democrat member of the House from Austin, Texas. He puts out a letter today, and the bottom line is he's encouraging Joe Biden to step aside. And the media are reporting this. This is the first break. Lloyd Doggett is a party man. He's a man of the cabal of the House of Representatives on the Democrat side. There's no way in hell Lloyd Doggett would have issued that letter without getting the consent of Hakeem Jeffries and the other leadership reprobate members in the Democrat Party. See what I'm saying? Lloyd Doggett is the canary in the cave. He's not one guy going out there on his own and cutting off his own ledge. That's not what happened. I'll be right back. My fellow Americans, the phony conviction of Donald Trump has sent a clear message. Our country is in deep trouble. Our rule of law is under attack, and the integrity of our elections may well be in jeopardy. In times of political chaos like this, it's crucial to protect your wealth and secure your financial future. That's where my good friends at Advantage Gold come in. Please call them now. 800-900-8000. Get their free 2024 gold and silver kit to help protect your money against times like these with physical, precious metals. Plus, tell them I sent you, and they'll give you a special Mark Levin discount worth up to $1,300 if you qualify. No one can predict the future, but you can prepare for it. Call Advantage Gold today. 800-900-8000. Get your free gold and silver kit right now. Plus, Mark Levin discount worth up to $1,300 for qualified customers today. 800-900-8000. Give it a try. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professionals.
Mark Levin, the most popular conservative author in America. Call in to the Mark Levin Show now at 877-381-3811.
All right, let me answer these questions, and then we will move on. The greatest influences on me in radio. When I was a kid, Bob Grant, who was obviously bouncing between WABC and WOR in New York, and Dominic Quinn in Philadelphia. Huge fan. And Bob Grant and I became very, very good friends. As I got older, I remember calling into this program when I was like 15, 16 or something, from Philadelphia. He was in Philadelphia a while, you know, they banned him in New York, and he got back, and all sorts of stuff. And you really were nervous when you called into Bob Grant's program. And there were others, and as I got older, I heard a guy by the name of Rush Limbaugh. And we became very, very, very close friends, like brothers. And after I got to know Rush a little while, I met Sean Hannity. Actually, I'd been on CNN on Crossfire, debating, I forget who I was, Carville. It was Carville. Actually whipped him pretty good. And Sean had seen it, and he asked me to come on Hannity and Combs. And from there, it took off. And we're very, very close friends, like brothers as well. So anyway, that's the long and the short of it. And, you know, people in my more recent history, Bart Tessler, Mike McVeigh, we have our dear friend Teresa Gage. We have Suzanne Grimes, the former president of Westwood. The new president of Westwood is a terrific guy, Colin. But I'm not, this isn't like a Lifetime Achievement Award, so I just want to thank everybody, period. And anybody's name I left out, it's certainly by accident. I want to get into some of this here. The propaganda, the rhetoric from the media and the Democrats. I said this over the weekend. I want to emphasize this again. If the corporate media do not get their act together and broom some of these nuts off of TV and off of radio, the country is going to continue to be at knife edge. You cannot listen to Rachel Maddow and Joy Reid. You cannot listen to these absolute fools going on about how now Trump can kill people and on. First of all, they're such pathetic liars. Secondly, they're so stupid. These are not rational human beings. They are ideologues. They are haters. They are racists. And so now they want you to believe that these 6 justices on the Supreme Court in the immunity case are all suck-ups to Donald Trump. They just want to deliver for Donald Trump. That's all. I posted Chief Justice John Roberts, who wrote the immunity decision, is no fan of President Trump. In fact, I understand he doesn't like him in the least. Indeed, you might recall he publicly criticized President Trump some years ago for Trump's criticism of Democrat-appointed jurists. So the idea that Roberts, who I understand is good friends with Thomas Friedman and the wives with each other, that he bent over backwards to deliver President Trump an immunity decision that allows him to order the assassination of political opponents, is so disgustingly insane on every level. Its demagogues must be openly condemned. From Sotomayor and her hysterically low IQ, outrageous dissent, to Joe Biden, from MSNBC to CNN, and the rest of the mouthpieces of the American Marxism movement. Now, while on the one hand they're saying that now Donald Trump can do whatever he wants, on the other hand, they're urging Jack Smith to go ahead with his case in January 6th and giving him reasons how he can and why he can. So which is it? And the Supreme Court, they say, that's given all this power to the presidency is the same Supreme Court that has just limited the power of the president to issue executive orders as if he's the legislature. It's the same Supreme Court that has brought back judicial review to the bureaucracy. So this Supreme Court is going to now rule that a president has the power to order the assassination of somebody? No, let's be specific. They said a political rival. He has the power to order SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival. That's what Sotomayor wrote, among other spectacular idiocies. Now, you don't have to be a lawyer. You don't have to be a Supreme Court justice. But whatever you do, don't be an MSNBC, CNN, or Democrat Party media mouthpiece either. Just common sense. Is it part of a president's constitutional official duties to order the assassination of a political rival, Mr. Producer? The answer is no. So what are they talking about? They seriously are demented. They seriously are sick. They can't tell the truth from a lie anymore, but all they know is they seek power. They are propagandists. They're the kind of propagandists that you will find in any autocratic society. They are propagandists not just for the state, but a police state that they claim they oppose. Rachel Maddow has to be one of the dumbest human beings on the earth. Yet they prop her up like she's some kind of smartass. She's not. She was wrong about Russia collusion. She's a demagogue. Joy Reid is a bigot. She's been a bigot a long time. With her homophobic comments, with her anti-Semitic comments, even with her racist comments against fellow blacks. It's all there. It was all there on the internet. She denied it. She lied. She said somebody put it there. But nobody could find that somebody. So what do they do over at MSNBC that's owned by Comcast? They give her a primetime slot. But that's who she is. She's a liar. Look at The View. What is it that you hear or learn from these clowns on The View? They're all failed. Whether it's a failed lawyer, a failed radio host, a failed actress, whether it's a grifter, a disgruntled former employee against Trump, whatever it is. These are clowns. And look at these columnists falling all over themselves, not sure what to say. One day Biden needs to go. One day they're not sure. The New York Times really believes its role is to dictate what the nation, via the Democrat Party, should do, so it comes out as fast as it can with an editorial. Get rid of Biden. The same New York Times that's been backing Biden every step of the way. These people are corrupt. They're irrational. They're incomprehensible unless you understand what their endgame is. What else? I've just decided from time to time to post certain things. that are thoughts that I typically save for radio and TV, but what the hell? If Biden drops out, I doubt he will, but who knows? Then go for it, Kamala. Kamala's reportedly upset that she's being overlooked in all the gossip because she's a black woman. No, she's being overlooked because she's an idiot. But let's play along. Kamala, you tell them. Tell them, Kamala, is the Democrat Party racist and misogynist? As I've said for decades. Is it truly committed to DEI? Or will it now resort to a different standard like actual merit? We can't have that. Now, can we, America? Well, we'll see. After all, Kamala's so accomplished, such a leader. Just ask Willie Brown. Now, DEI is being pushed by Kamala. It's being pushed by the Democrat Party. It's being pushed by the media. It's being pushed by academia. It's being pushed by athletes. It's being pushed by broadcast. It's being pushed and pushed and pushed, DEI. Yet when you actually apply DEI to certain people, now it's racist. You see, DEI is a double-edged sword. Isn't it? Isn't it? So if people are looking for merit, or people are looking for accomplishment, or people are looking for winners, when you look at athletics, or people are looking for success and so forth, there's no DEI. It's merit. 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 We want the best football players we can get. We don't give a damn what race they are. And so most football players are black. We want the best basketball players we can get. Most basketball players are black. We want the best hockey players. Most of them are white. Half of them are Canadian. That's it. And yet they impose on the rest of society these absurd non-standards that have to do with physical features, non-substantive features, exactly what Martin Luther King said to ignore. Exactly what all real civil rights leaders in the recent past or the ancient past have said. But now Kamala, who was chosen up because she was the best, in fact, she was the first to leave the Democrat primary in 1916. She wasn't even supported by most of the black population. She had to drop out. So Biden picks her. He doesn't pick her because she's profound, she's accomplished, she's smart. He picks her because of the physical reasons that a Democrat is supposed to pick somebody. And so he did. Now, Democrats are looking around. They go, no. She's weak. Her polls are weak. She's made, people don't like her. We got to find somebody who's strong, who can win. If we get rid of the dim-witted Biden, we got to, who we promoted the hell out of, but we got to, she said, wait a minute. She hears about this. Reports are. She said, what are you going around me? I'm a black woman. You don't get to go around me. But we do get to go around you if you're a Democrat. Why not? Why not? Because I'll make an issue out of it. Make an issue out of what? But the hypocrisy of the Democrat Party. It's like she's the first woman vice president. But Justice Jackson, even in an opinion the other day, won't define what a woman is. You have to use pronouns. Not real nouns, pronouns. But she's the first woman. Excuse me. We don't talk that way anymore in our colleges and universities and other places that are very progressive and advanced. We don't talk that way anymore. The Democrats talk out of both sides of their mouth. Want another example? I've got a million of them. It's almost too much fun. But let's talk about it anyway. Now the Democrats and their media claim they are the constitutional originalists. What do you mean by that, Mark? Well, for years, the Democrats and their media have told us that the Constitution is old It is a document drafted and adopted by white slaveholders. It is an obstacle to civil rights and progress, right? The framers have been condemned, their names removed from buildings, their monuments destroyed. Yet today, right now, these same Democrats and media are claiming that our precious Constitution is being destroyed by the Supreme Court justices. Wait a minute. I didn't think it was precious. Oh, no, it's precious. Our precious Constitution is being destroyed. By who? The very Supreme Court justices who practice constitutional originalism. So now they flip the script. All the people trashing the Constitution, American history, replacing 1776 with 1619, trashing the framers of the Constitution, the Constitution itself, its original principles, its values, its very words. CRT, DEI, ESG, 1619. Now they claim to be defending the values, the principles, under our precious Constitution from Donald Trump. And Clarence Thomas and Sam Alito. See? These people are sick. They're hypocrites. They're ignoramuses. But power will do that. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
The war against Donald Trump, which is ongoing, has turned our legal and political system into a nightmare. With the 2024 elections on the horizon, we could be facing a period of unprecedented instability and uncertainty. But you can protect and grow your wealth by investing in gold and silver. Precious metals have always served as a safe haven during times of political and economic turmoil. And with the expert guidance of my good friends at Advantage Gold, you can navigate this insane climate with confidence. Call Advantage Gold right now. 800-900-8000. They'll send you a free 2024 gold and silver kit that tells you how to help keep your money safe when things are bad. Plus, tell them I sent you, and they'll give you a special Mark Levin discount worth up to $1,300 if you qualify. Call Advantage Gold, 800-900-8000. Get your special Mark Levin discount worth up to $1,300 for qualified customers. That's 800-900-8000. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. Remember this issue came up, and we used Joy Reid as a foil, as a perfect example of the hypocrisy and stupidity, and the dehumanization of DEI. Somebody wrote something about the governor of Maryland, who, by the way, is a very competent guy. I don't agree with his politics. He's a liberal. But he's not a nut. He's not a radical leftist of the AOC ilk. He's a Democrat, and he's a liberal Democrat, the kind of liberal Democrats I used to deal with. Name is Wes Moore. He also served in the military. But some jerk wrote that he was a DEI governor. And I believe it was Joy Reid got very angry, said that's very racist. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, wait a minute. I would never say that because I think it is. But why would Joy Reid have a problem with that? The Democrats are pushing for DEI. They invented it. The Marxists invented it. They want people hired based on diversity, equity, and whatever the hell it is. It's leached throughout our society. And then if you say, okay, and I'm not talking about him, I'm giving an example. That's a DEI employee. Wait a minute, that's racist. Okay, well, which is it? Stop pushing a racist policy and hire people based on their content. Nobody wants to believe that they were hired for that reason. They believe they're successful. They're unique. They have personality. They have skills, whatever it is. But the Democrats and their surrogates want it both ways. Well, you can't get it both ways. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Well, let's start this way with this stuff. Harry Eaton, the data report at CNN. This guy's really quite good. Watch. Whenever I say that, then they turn south. But he seems really good. He's very emotional about what he does, which in and of itself is an accomplishment. So he's the data guy. And so they're looking at these numbers on the incumbency of a president. And here's what he says. Hat tip, real clear politics on CNN. Cut one, go.
CBS News YouGov conducted some polling post-debate. We can compare it to the pre-debate numbers. And the bottom line, Al, it's not any good. It's not any good. Look at this. Voters who say that Biden has the mental health to be president. It was just 35% pre-debate. Look where it's dropped to now post-debate, 27%. How about that he should be running for president? It was 37% pre-debate. It's now 28%. I have never seen numbers this bad for an incumbent president during my lifetime. I mean, that mental health to be president, just 27%. You might say, okay, you know, that's low, but a lot of people thought Biden was too old back in 2020. These numbers look nothing like this back in 2020. These numbers were bad already. And the truth is, Allison, they have gotten just considerably worse, even in just a few days after that first presidential debate.
Because he has dementia. And 4 years ago is like a world ago for people who suffer from dementia. And unfortunately, whether it's dementia or Alzheimer's, it starts to pick up pace. It becomes cumulative. The synapses in the brain cannot function properly. The case of Alzheimer's, tau, a protein, smothers the electrical circuits in the brain. I assume dementia works similarly. I don't know. Now, 5 weeks ago on Fox and on this program, I went through the 7 stages of dementia. Nobody ever did that before. Everybody was commenting, he's shuffling, he's this, something's wrong. I said, all right, let's take a serious look at this, a substantive look at this. The other week, I took a serious and substantive look at Jill Biden and compared her to Edith Wilson. Now everybody's doing that. I said she's the power behind the throne. If she wanted to put an end to this would be over. It's time to focus on Jill. Now everybody is focused on Jill because she is the power behind the throne. Several months ago, I did a show on the 25th Amendment that it's become a dead letter because the vice president and the cabinet secretaries have to be involved in triggering it. They won't. Now we have a congressman correctly, Chip Roy, who's introduced a resolution urging the triggering of the 25th Amendment, which will never happen in this cabinet with this vice president. Now let's go back to Harry Eaton on CNN on these numbers. And he's with Allison Camerata. Cut 2, go.
Harry, do we have polling yet that suggests that voters want a different candidate?
Yeah, this is the whole question, right? If it's not President Biden, then who could it be on the Democratic side? And the truth is, there are no easy answers. You know, I went back and looked at the polling versus Donald Trump for a bunch of different Democrats have been suggested. Gretchen Whitmer, Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris. Look at this. They all trail Donald Trump. So the idea here that we're somehow going to get this magic bullet, that there's somehow going to be some Democrat who can beat Donald Trump easily, I just don't see it in the numbers. At this particular point, if Joe Biden takes on Donald Trump, he's trailing. If there's another Democrat who runs against Donald Trump, they too are trailing. Perhaps you want to make the argument you bring in another Democrat who isn't as well known as Joe Biden, who has universal name recognition, and maybe they could change the numbers. But the fact is, any Democrat who entered the race right now, at least among those that are being suggested by a bunch of folks, they would all enter the race at this particular point as an underdog to former President Donald Trump.
But, Harry, are those numbers old numbers or are those since the debate? I mean, maybe the conversation has changed.
Yeah, those are not numbers that have been taken since the debate, though I was looking at numbers that were post-debate. This takes into account an average, a long-term average, right? Because the key is I don't just want to rely upon one polling number. But even the limited polling data that we have post-debate suggests that none of those candidates on your screen, Gretchen Whitmer, Gavin Newsom, or Kamala Harris, any of those would be favored over Donald Trump. He leads against all of them, whether you look at the pre-debate numbers or the post-debate numbers. And, of course, I like to look at an aggregate of numbers, so that's what I did. But the fact is, even if you just did post-debate, it really wouldn't look any different.
Over at NBC News, they're looking at polls, too. Cut 3, go.
This isn't just his political opponents saying he should get out of the race. This is worry within his own party, concern within his own party. 45% of Democrats saying that Biden should step aside. And obviously that performance, I think, just reinforcing and maybe even increasing in terms of its potency, the main concern, or one of the main concerns we've seen over and over when it comes to Biden, and that is his age. This is a Gallup poll just before the debate, and already going into the debate, 67% of voters said they considered Biden too old to be president. That's 30 points higher than the number for Donald Trump. And just take a look at the other oldest nominees in history. John McCain in 2008, Dole 96, Reagan in both of his campaigns. The number was somewhere in the 30s, even the 20s for Reagan. That Biden number is a number we've never seen for any candidate before. And I will say, as we wait for definitive polling, we do have one poll that is now asked the horse race question after the debate, asking Biden versus Trump after the debate, who are you for? It's just from one state. It's from New Hampshire. But in that New Hampshire poll, this is out just a couple minutes ago, Trump leads by 2 points in the New Hampshire poll. If you can read my writing, Trump +2. And the critical thing there is in 2020, Biden carried New Hampshire by 7.5 points.
Okay. Now, what have I told you about polls? We got to deal with them. They're interesting. They do give us some insight, but they must not impact activism, voting early, getting other people to vote, doing anything you can, donations. We cannot sit on our laurels because there's no laurels to sit on. Anything can change, and these people are untrustworthy, whether it's the media or the Democrat Party officials and operatives. They're diabolical. Then we have Carl Bernstein on CNN. This guy is disgusting. This guy and the others have been a mouthpiece for Biden, have been pom-pom dancers for Biden. All of them. So now some of them are just trying to, take a step back and say, look at what I found. Look at what I see. These are all co-conspirators in the cover-up. And by the way, that debate was just 5 days ago. Just 5 days ago. And they're doing everything they can to put it behind us and to put Biden behind us. Here he is with Anderson Cooper, Carl Bernstein. Cut 4, go.
Carl, according to the people you've been talking to, what are you hearing?
Well, these are people, several of them, who are very close to President Biden, who love him, have supported him, and been among them are some people who have raised a lot of money for him. And they are adamant that what we saw the other night, the Joe Biden we saw, is not a one-off, that there have been 15, 20 occasions in the last year and a half.
So let's slow down. So why didn't he come to the defense of the Wall Street Journal reporters? Why didn't he immediately come out as soon as he was getting this information and talk about this on CNN? Why didn't he immediately confront the lies coming out of the White House about, the false clips and all the rest of it? He waits till now because he's a coward. Go ahead.
Has appeared somewhat as he did in that horror show that we witnessed. And what's so significant is the people that this is coming from, and also how many people around the president are aware of such incidents, including some reporters, incidentally, who have witnessed some of them. But here we see tonight, as these people say, President Biden at his absolute best, and yet these people who have supported him, loved him, campaigned for him, see him often, say that in the last 6 months particularly, there has been a marked incidence of cognitive decline and physical.
And by the way, you know, you have reports now at the New York Times that he basically works 6 hours a day. You have reports during the debate prep. These are the staff who they trashed, the Biden family, so the staff is trashing back. Actually, they're more than staff. These are as close as 18 people that he's ever known, whose hair he hasn't sniffed. And they're now all saying that he would start at 11 in the morning and he needed an hour nap during the afternoon. You get the point. And we're supposed to believe, oh, we gave a good speech. Who cares? At this point, it's obvious to everybody. Even the Holocaust-denying New York Slimes, which, of course, again, was all in, covered up everything. The Democrats are voting in Democrat primaries, independents in some of them. People contributed their hard-earned money. The activists are out there. They got the man they wanted. The media told them, he's a good guy, you know, he's got his wits, sharp as a tack, blah, blah, blah. And now the media are telling them, all for naught. We're going to disenfranchise all of you. The money you spent, forget about it. All the hours you spent knocking on doors, forget about it. That's right. In Chicago, the elites have to find somebody else. They're between a rock and a hard place because they put us between a rock and a hard place. That's why. When you lie, and you lie systemically, and you lie for a living, as the media do and these Democrat mouthpieces do, this is what you get. Cut 5, go.
There is no question. I have heard for 2 years how sharp Joe Biden is in his national security meetings. He has special briefing books.
Now he's an analyst. Right, Mr. Producer? He's never been an advocate on there. Right? Mr. This is worse than Watergate? Now he's an analyst. Now he's stepping back. Now he's trying to claw back and get some credibility back. He has none. He's groveling. Go ahead.
Ukraine, on the situation in Gaza that go down into very detailed military reports. He has an absolute command of the facts. He's sharp as can be. You see the evidence of his being the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee in the Senate, of his work as vice president on foreign relations. So we're clearly dealing with two sets of one person. And it really needs to be explored.
No. Two sets of one person. Look, he was a nitwit even before all of this. That's one thing. But we're talking about today. Today it's certified and it's official. Ask Robert Hur, who was trashed by the Democrats in Congress, who was trashed by the media. He didn't have to go there. He didn't have to say these things. Well, he felt he had to, and he was trying to send a signal to the American people. We have a problem here. The Justice Department tried to get him to take it out. He wouldn't. But even more, the White House counsel's office worked overtime to try and get him to take it out of the report. He refused. And, of course, the audio that he's referencing is under lock and key at the United States Department of Justice. They will not release it. They concocted a phony privilege. And, of course, this is the party that's worried about the Constitution and democracy. Go ahead.
The people I'm talking to, and I think an awful lot of major Democrats believe this, including some who have made statements to the contrary.
None of whom will give their names, only a handful. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Did you know one of the largest U.S. flags in the state of Georgia stands proudly in Pure Talk's parking lot? To honor that flag, Pure Talk is supporting America's Warrior Partnership in their mission to prevent veteran suicide. For our servicemen and women, the transition to civilian life can be very difficult, especially now. Access to housing, employment, and even their earned VA benefits can be very difficult. That's where America Warriors Partnership steps in by providing real support where and when our vets need it most. And you can help this noble cause when you switch to Pure Talk's 5G service and support this great charity. Through Flag Day, they'll match every dollar donated up to $50,000. Choose a wireless company that shares your values and puts you on America's most dependable 5G network for just $20 a month. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/LEVIN to make the switch. That's puretalk.com/Levin for superior cell phone service. That's half the price of Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile, and to help Pure Talk with vets in need. These clips are important. I use them to make points. Now, some shows I don't use a single clip, like the other day. Or I'll hit one topic, 2, maybe 3. Other shows I'll hit 10. There's no formatics here. It is what it is. But it's important to understand what's taking place here. The press really grilled this Karine Jean-Pierre at the White House. And so people are saying that's because they were lied to. No, it's not. The press knew they were being lied to. The press regurgitates the talking points and the propaganda. The problem for the press is that debate made the press irrelevant in terms of us seeing what was taking place. It didn't matter how they described anything. You saw it, and you were furious. You were furious with Biden. You were furious with Jill Biden. You were furious with the Democrat Party apparatchiks. And you were furious with the propaganda media. The Pravda, Al Jazeera, American media. So here it is today at the White House. Cut 6, go.
Does President Biden, at 81 years old, have Alzheimer's, any form of dementia, or degenerative illness that cause these sorts of lapses? And it's a yes or no question. And if you don't know, why don't you, as one of his senior staff members, know?
I have an answer for you. Are you ready for it?
Yes.
It's a no. And I hope you're asking the other guy the same exact question.
Very, very clever. See? She's just, in the end, a propagandist. And how does she know it's a no? Has he had a brain scan? I'm serious. To determine whether he has Alzheimer's? What kind of tests have been done? None. None. And so that would have been the follow-up question. Okay, let's focus on your guy, not the other guy, Corinne. What tests have been conducted to determine whether or not he has some neurological issues? None. Is he taking any medicine to deal with neurological issues? I mean, there's so many great questions. I don't know. I'm not even a reporter. But then guess what? Somebody did ask. Somebody did ask. Cut 7, go.
As it relates to his medical records, we have been transparent. We have released thorough reports from his medical team every year since he's been.
No, you haven't. You've released synopsises. What medicine is he taking? Now, normally that's a private matter. Private matter for you and you and you and you and me and everybody else. But when it comes to an issue of his cognitive abilities, his neurological health, and he wants to remain president and run for re-election, it is an issue. I don't need to ask the other guy. Go ahead.
Something that we have been pretty consistent about as it relates to, something like a cognitive test. To the question that you're asking me about what the speaker, former speaker said, obviously she can speak for herself. His team, who has said, the medical team said it is not warranted in this case. We have put forward a thorough, transparent...
So the answer is no. They're not going to do a cognitive test because they know what it'll find. The answer is no, they're not going to release the audio. They'll come up with phony privileges and do whatever they have to do because they know what you'll hear. The debate destroyed all this for people unlike you who are tuned in, engaged, understand what's taking place. But the rest of the country, at least a lot of it, got to see and said, oh my God, what the hell happened here? Nothing. This is what we've been saying. I'll be right back. Did you know one of the largest U.S. flags in the state of Georgia stands proudly in Pure Talk's parking lot? To honor that flag, Pure Talk is supporting America's Warrior Partnership in their mission to prevent veteran suicide. For our servicemen and women, the transition to civilian life can be very difficult, especially now. Access to housing, employment, and even their earned VA benefits can be very difficult. That's where America Warriors Partnership steps in by providing real support where and when our vets need it most. And you can help this noble cause when you switch to Pure Talk's 5G service and support this great charity. Through Flag Day, they'll match every dollar donated up to $50,000. Choose a wireless company that shares your values and puts you on America's most dependable 5G network for just $20 a month. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/LEVIN to make the switch. That's puretalk.com/Levin for superior cell phone service. That's half the price of Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile, and to help Pure Talk with vets in need.
He's driving the media mad. Mark Levin, call in with your outrage. 877-381-3811.
This program is moving way too fast. All right. Well, there is a lot going on out there that we haven't touched yet. And we have Joe Biden's going to do his first interview. I think it's going to be Sunday. Won't we all be watching July 4th weekend, Mr. Producer? Anyway, that'll be the first TV interview he does post-debate with George Stephanopoulos. Now, this is ironic. George Stephanopoulos has been a propagandist for the Democrats, for Biden, for Obama, for Clinton, since before he hit puberty. And I don't even know if he's hit puberty yet, but it doesn't matter. So the point is, he goes there. It's like the next debate is supposed to be ABC News. He ought to do a debate with Martha McCullum. Not a debate, an interview with Martha McCullum. She's one of the finest journalists there are. She really is. And there are several. But she's got the perfect program for it. Perfect format for it. So I would vote that she should do it. And during the course of the immunity case, I've indicated to you that Justice Clarence Thomas, in his concurring opinion, raised the issue of the prosecutor himself, the legitimacy, the constitutional legitimacy of this prosecutor. You know, it's not a minor issue, as I've said before, still struggling with the COVID. In any event, two former attorneys general I've mentioned, including my former boss. It's been addressed to Breitbart and Red State, a few others, Blaze. But here, Justice Thomas uses presidential immunity case to question the legality of the whole Trump prosecution. Because he's the originalist of the originalists. He really is. He is the platinum standard. The Supreme Court handed down a mixed bag of a ruling on presidential immunity, they write at Red State, specifically Strife. In my view, they took what could have been a straightforward and elegant decision. The president is immune for prosecution for acts committed in office unless he's been impeached for those acts. And he says, turned it into a dog's breakfast of angels on the head of a pin, litigation about what constitutes official and unofficial. In any event, that's not my point in reading this. But what has passed with remarkably little notice is Justice Clarence Thomas's concurrence. Justice Thomas says the court is putting the cart before the horse. The first question that needs to be answered is not whether acts were official or unofficial. The critical first question is whether this prosecution is legal at all. And Judge Cannon needs to deal with this, and hopefully she'll look at the briefs that were filed and she'll see the quality of two briefs that are absolutely bulletproof legally. She can pick one or the other, the landmark brief or the brief on behalf of Attorneys General Meese and Mukasey. Thomas's comments begin on the 44th page of the linked document. In any event, He says, I write separately to highlight another way in which this prosecution may violate our constitutional structure. In this case, the Attorney General purported to appoint a private citizen as special counsel to prosecute a former president on behalf of the United States. But I am not sure that any office for special counsel has been established by law, quote unquote, as the Constitution requires. Article 2, Section 2, Clause 2, by requiring the Congress to create federal offices by law, the Constitution imposes an important check against the president. He cannot create offices at his pleasure. If there's no law established in the office that the special counsel occupies, then he cannot proceed with his prosecution. A private citizen cannot criminally prosecute anyone, writes Thomas, let alone a former president. No former president has faced criminal prosecution for his acts while in office in more than 200 years since the founding of our country. And that is so despite numerous past presidents taking actions that many would argue constitute crimes. If this unprecedented prosecution is to proceed, it must be conducted by someone duly authorized to do so by the American people. The lower courts should thus answer these essential questions concerning the special counsel's appointment before proceeding, and Judge Aileen Cannon is doing just that, which is why the same haters and BSers, liars, and low IQ buffoons who are saying they want to impeach the existing Supreme Court justices have been attacking her. If they weren't attacking her, she'd be as illegitimate in her decisions, as corrupt in her approach as Judge Chutkan and Merchan and their ilk. He goes on, does Thomas. Even if the special counsel has a valid office, questions remain as to whether the Attorney General filled that office in compliance with the Appointments Clause. For example, it must be determined whether the special counsel is a principal or inferior officer. Now, I guarantee you never heard of those things till you listen to this program. That's why you're so smart, seriously. No, not because you listen to me, but because you want to know stuff. If the former, that is a principal officer, his appointment is invalid because the special counsel was not nominated by the president, confirmed by the Senate, as principal officers must be under Article 2, Section 2, Clause 2. Even if he's an inferior officer, the Attorney General could appoint him without presidential nomination and senatorial confirmation only if, quote, Congress by law vested the appointment in the Attorney General as a head of a department. I pointed this out at length here and on Fox. So the special counsel's appointment is invalid unless the statute created the special counsel's office and gave the Attorney General the power to fill it by law. So Thomas writes, whether the special counsel's office was established by law is not a trifling technicality. If Congress has not reached a consensus that a particular office should even exist, the executive lacks the power to unilaterally create and then fill that office, which is exactly what Garland has done. Given that the special counsel purports to wield the executive branch's power to prosecute, the consequences are weighty. Our Constitution's separation of powers, including its separation of powers to create and fill offices, is the absolutely central guarantee of a just government and the liberty that it secures for us. And he cites Justice Scalia's dissent in the independent counsel statute, the only one who did dissent. There's no prosecution that can justify imperiling it. That is separation of powers. Now, this is much the same as the argument that Trump's legal team made before federal district judge Aileen Cannon. Former President Trump's defense team tried to persuade the judge overseeing the national security documents case to dismiss the indictment. This is how the media reported it, pushing a long-shot argument that special counsel Jack Smith was not properly appointed. It's not a long-shot argument. It's the only argument that is right. And so over Red State, Strife writes, this is an ongoing campaign by Jack Smith and the media to gaslight into thinking The argument is specious, but these are the same people who told you Joe Biden's dementia and physical decrepitude were cheap fakes. Don't believe them. Smith's case is particularly weak because the Senate never confirmed him to any position inside the federal government. None. And even so, if the Justice Department's internal special counsel rule is legal, there's a huge question mark floating over Smith's ability to serve in that position. Thomas has to be aware of the blowback he's going to get over using his concurrence, but you know what? He's not getting blowback because nationally, I'm the only one talking about it. As I brought it up to you on Monday in his concurrence. But it should give some heart to Judge Cannon in Florida. It should give some impetus to her not only to hold a hearing, but to reach the right conclusion. And I will tell you this further. The fact that the court, the 6 members, did their immunity ruling, coming under this attack as a illustration to all constitutionalists who are on the bench, serious judges. Just do what's right. They can't touch you politically. Just do what's right. The country will benefit. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Did you know one of the largest U.S. flags in the state of Georgia stands proudly in Pure Talk's parking lot? To honor that flag, Pure Talk is supporting America's Warrior Partnership in their mission to prevent veteran suicide. For our servicemen and women, the transition to civilian life can be very difficult, especially now. Access to housing, employment, and even their earned VA benefits can be very difficult. That's where America Warriors Partnership steps in by providing real support where and when our vets need it most. And you can help this noble cause when you switch to Pure Talk's 5G service and support this great charity. Through Flag Day, they'll match every dollar donated up to $50,000. Choose a wireless company that shares your values and puts you on America's most dependable 5G network for just $20 a month. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/LEVIN to make the switch. That's puretalk.com/Levin for superior cell phone service. That's half the price of Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile, and to help Pure Talk with vets in need. We swear, we move, we're flexible, we bob and weave, but there's always a core issue or theme, isn't there? Always. I talk to you all the time about power. The Democrats, the American Marxists, the Islamists are power hungry. I'm even developing my theories on this that I'll present to you at some point, so I have to be careful what I say since everything I say is taken down. So I'm going to hold back on some of it if you don't mind. But there will be an occasion to use it. There was a brilliant, brilliant professor, University of Alabama, Forrest McDonald. And he wrote a great book called The Intellectual Origins of the Constitution. And since the Democrats now are the great constitutionalists, when they wanted to burn down the statues and Independence Hall and all the rest of it. And he pointed out the constitutional reallocation of powers created a new form of government, unprecedented under the sun in the United States, in America rather. Every previous national authority either had been centralized or else had been a confederation of sovereign constituent states. The new American system was neither one nor the other. Was a mixture of both, and that word mixture is a word that Aristotle would use, by the way. James Madison developed the variations on this theme in Federalist number 39. After first calling attention to the checks inherent in having officials in the several branches be elected for periods of differing lengths, he analyzed the Constitution in respect to, quote, the foundation on which it is to be established, to the sources from which its ordinary powers are to be drawn, to the operation of those powers, to the extent of them, and I'm quoting Madison, and to the authority by which future changes in the government are to be introduced. That's in Federalist 39. He concluded that the Constitution was federal in regard to the first and fourth of these criteria, mixed in regard to the second and fifth, and national only in regard to the third. In some, it was a partly national, partly federal, not the purely national form that Madison himself had championed during the convention. And it goes on. I have my own theory. I don't know if there's some ancient who came up with it or somebody 300 years ago, but on my own readings and study over all these decades, really half a century. I know I don't look it, I don't sound it, but nonetheless, half a century. Although I definitely feel it. Marx talked about the driving force among mankind is materialism, economics. Others who we admire so greatly have said the driving force among individuals and mankind is liberty. Others have come up with other thoughts and theories. Here's mine. That the driving force for mankind, and by the way, there are exceptions. When you say mankind, it's the general rule, is power. I'm not going to get into power in the sense of your family or your individual lifestyle or anything. I'm talking about as a society, as a culture. If you look around the world, if you look at history, ancient and more recent, the battles are over. The debates are over. Power. We don't even talk about liberty in this country anymore, do we, Mr. Badu? But power is crucial. Separation of powers is what preserves your liberty. More when I return.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Okay, people are interested. I'm not going to go too far with this because I'm already playing around with it on my own. When it's fully developed, I'll provide it to you, may I say, chapter and verse. What is the debate, mostly, when we come to government? Is it about freedom and liberty? Well, maybe among us it is. But it's about power. Justice Scalia famously said, and I played this clip here, and I've played it on Fox, and I've played it on Blaze because he was so brilliant and articulate. He said, I asked people, what's the most important part of the Constitution? I'm paraphrasing, obviously. And he says, they usually say the First Amendment, freedom of speech, or due process rights, or probable cause, no general warrants, things of that. He said, that's crazy. The Bill of Rights was an afterthought. A little more complicated than that, but let's go with it. The Bill of Rights was an afterthought. Well, it was adopted after the Constitution. I will say this. Most of the ideas for the Bill of Rights came from the state conventions, many of which said they would not vote to ratify the Constitution unless it was later amended. And that was the bargain that was reached with several of the states. Anyway, that's not the point. He said, and I've said, and I've written, that the Soviet Constitution, particularly when you look at the 1936 Soviet Constitution, which I cite in 2 of my 10 books, he says they have a better Bill of Rights than we do. And he's right. I mean, they even talk about the right to a vacation, the right to health spas. I mean, it really goes into great detail. It's fantastic. And yet, it's the most deadly genocidal state man has ever known. And yet that was Stalin's Constitution of 1936. What was the problem? And as Scalia pointed out, the framers would have called these parchment rights. In other words, rights on paper, but not actual rights that were enshrined, adhered to, nurtured. Separation of powers. What is the Constitution all about? All of it. Separation of powers. These men, in less than 5 months in Philadelphia, the delegates to the Constitution, they had to come up with a document that rejected the idea of centralism, like a monarchy, and yet rejected the idea of pure democracy or mobocracy. As I've told you before, they obviously fought a brutal revolution that they almost lost against the first form of tyranny, but the second form of tyranny was as great a threat, and this all playing out during the revolution in France, 10-year revolution, which was absolute terrorism. Because in France, the revolution was about abolishing the society. The American Revolution was never about abolishing the society. The American Revolution was about creating representative government to protect the society. And this is why the modern-day Marxists and the rest of them wish that it was more like the French Revolution, that everything was burned up and destroyed. But again, for another day. So the Constitution, they had to make decisions. And so the Constitution is a fairly complex document. That's why even Jefferson and others talked about an immigration back then. Then you can't just have people coming into the country who don't know the language, who are not willing to be assimilated and show allegiance to the country, actually understanding what the country is. And unfortunately, most Americans, unlike you, don't understand what the Constitution says and have never even looked at it. I don't even mean read the whole thing. I mean looked at it. Or I've never listened to this program where we discuss it all the time. Whether it is the division of power, as Aristotle, as Kant, as Locke, and more specifically Montesquieu, who was embraced by the framers and others, talked about a mixed power. And so we have separation of powers, the three branches of government. And whether it was to specify what it was in detail, yet ambiguous enough for the document to be adhered to as a country changes and grows. That is, what are the defined powers of each one of these branches? Can you imagine doing this from scratch, Mr. Producer? And then there were other issues that you had to deal with in a society. What did you want to promote? They wanted to promote commerce. So we have a commerce clause. The states were fighting with each other, taxing each other to prevent one from doing business with another. So commerce was a big issue for the well-being of the nation. And so much more. They created the office of the presidency. Nothing like it before in humankind. Nothing. They not only created a legislature, they created a bicameral legislature. Why? Because they had small states with small populations, larger states with larger populations. So what are you going to do? They came up with a compromise. All right, so we'll have this House of Representatives where we have representatives from smaller political divisions within a state, and then the states will be represented in the Senate. And they'll both have different powers, but from time to time they have to come together in order to exercise them from different perspectives and with different authorities. Genius, absolute genius. So we have the House and the Senate. The Senate is called the upper chamber, not because it was to be more powerful, it wasn't. It's because when the first Congress met, it met on the second floor, the upper chamber, the Senate, and the lower chamber, the House, met on the first floor. It's the lower chamber and the upper chamber. That's the way the Independence Hall and the Pennsylvania legislature, that's the way their building was structured. Okay. Now, each branch gets its different kinds of power. As Montesquieu, not the only one, argued, power versus power, where they jealously protect their power, their legislative authority, their executive authority, their judicial authority. And let me stop at that point. Let's focus on that. But the problem is, if your party is of the mindset that it doesn't really care about separation of powers when it controls one or more of the branches, that it supports the consolidation of power under the party. That is, if a Democrat is president, the executive branch, if the Democrats control Congress or one branch of Congress, say the Senate, or let's say the House, they're not interested in competing powers. They're interested in centralizing power, centralizing authority while they control power, while they have these offices in order to advance their agenda. And when they're out of power, that's when they support the diffusion of power, the diversification of power. So when Trump is president, he's always a dictator, according to them. You understand? Or if they don't control the Supreme Court is a Politburo. So the Supreme Court needs to be attacked until it can be engineered or jiggered to accommodate the agenda of the Democrat Party and the American Marxists. The presidency must be re-engineered or rejiggered to accommodate their agenda. So they will support the separation of the branches when the opposition party is in charge. And of course, the opposition party, not perfectly, but tries to adhere to that. So they don't empower themselves as a party using the government, whereas the Democrat Party does the opposite. It consolidates power. So they want Joe Biden to issue executive orders like legislation, even though they control the Senate. They don't care. They're on the same page in terms of ideology, in terms of power. How many times have I told you, uniquely to anybody else, I think, that the Democrat Party is about the Democrat Party? It's like a communist party. The Communist Party is key. That's how you get party. Not the country, quote unquote, the party. The party has to instigate these things. The party has to control the instrumentalities of government, the instrumentalities of the culture. It's the party. It is the party through which they operate. That's what Marx told them, and that's what they do. You and me, the Republican Party, it's weak. You know, we've got this one fighting with that one. We don't view the world that way. We don't view power that way. We don't view government that way. We're constantly fighting for the Constitution, which not only is to limit their power, but limit our own power. And therein lies part of the problem, to which there is no simple answer. We embrace a philosophy, not an ideology, a philosophy of a more passive power. Is this making sense, Mr. Producer? Am I boring you? All right, no. I just want to make sure, because I want to make sure I'm not boring people. So, not perfectly, quite imperfectly. But we believe, as much as possible in modern society, since so much of the institutional division of power has been destroyed by Theodore Roosevelt, by Woodrow Wilson, by Franklin Roosevelt, by, you can go on and on and on, Lyndon Johnson and even Republicans, Nixon and so on. Okay, fine. That we don't even talk about this anymore. I talk about it. Because this is what I do. When everybody's off doing stuff, this is what I do. When everybody's going to the Republican convention to be seen and touched and felt and have a donut, I don't do that. Here's the point. We, as constitutionalists, defend to the extent we can, the Constitution, these barriers. We don't believe in an all-powerful this or that. We don't believe in an all-powerful anything. The Democrats seek to destroy the balance. They want a power center. The division of power is a bulwark against their ideology. Not philosophy, their ideology. This American Marxist centralized government, centralized economic decision-making, ubiquitous power. The Constitution is inimical to this, antithetical to this. So the Constitution's the problem. For them. So they attack the founders. They attack the men who met in Philadelphia and drafted the Constitution and approved it. They attack the men who, in the state conventions, ratified it. Brutalized them. Viciously attacked them. Even though these men, some of whom did own slaves, some of whom did not. Even though these men created the cultural environment where liberty could spread, where equality could spread, where changes could be made, provides the freedom, the opportunity, the tools for people who want to sabotage the Constitution and the country to operate. It is, as I've told you before, a puzzle we've never been able to solve. That is, the use of the Constitution to destroy the Constitution, and more specifically, the use of liberty to destroy liberty. But power. Joe Biden issues executive orders. Joe Biden opens the border to change the entire nature of citizenship, demography of the country, empower the Democrat Party, he hopes, and destroy the Republican Party. Power. Every voting change that they want isn't about enfranchising people. It's about empowering the Democrat Party. Power. Centralized power within the Democrat Party. Democrat Party doesn't stand for capitalism. They don't believe in free markets. They don't believe in the market system. They're going to impose electric vehicles on you. They're going to impose a certain type of light bulb on you, a fan on you. Why? Centralized industrial policy. Power. Power. If you're an independent contractor, we have to destroy the whole idea of independent contractors. If you're right to work state, we have to destroy the whole idea of right to work state. Why? Power. Centralization of power. So in society, in the culture, in the governing process, the focus is all the same. This is why you have to change the language. This is why you need to force feed values and beliefs that may be reprehensible to the nuclear family, or reprehensible to tradition or faith or whatever it is. These things must be destroyed. The party is the power base. So while Marx says mankind is about materialism, men have to eat. Whereas so many of the geniuses have said mankind is about individual liberty, seeking it. And I think that's very, very important that we preserve individual liberty. And for some people it is. But for those in governance, for those in politics, the issue is not liberty. The issue is authority. Power. Now we'll hear how the backbenchers on TV and radio try to work with this. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
It's like oppressor and oppressed, you know? So there I am sitting at my desk, minding my own business for hour after hour, weekend after weekend, and writing American Marxism, the book before my last one. And I'm reading Marx, which is really a monotony. He's not the only one. I've read Rousseau and Hegel and so many of the rest of them. And oppressor versus oppressed. This is the central theme throughout what I'm reading. And then Marx and Engels did a lot of Marx's writing. They actually put it out there a few times. And so I make it a very important marquee point in American Marxism. And now you hear people refer to this. This is what we try and do. We try and get this into the bloodstream.
Mark Levin, the cure for the common liberal. Talk to Mark now at 877-381-3811.
A buddy of mine, we go way back, Bob Selig in Florida. This guy is great. We both got elected to the local school board at the same time. He was an old man. He was 27. I think I was 19, 20. Just kidding. He became the president, and he was fantastic, good man. So he sends me an email. He says, I think it's a joke, but it's funny. Joe Biden has something in common with all the dictators in the Soviet Union, all the leaders there. You know what it was, Mr. Producer? They all were said to have had colds before they moved on. Oh, he has a cold. That's why you don't see him. Remember all that? Well, some of you are too young, but it used to be. Oh, he has a cold. That's why you don't see him. Oh, okay. And then they would pass along. I didn't say pass away, even though they did. I said pass along. So anyway, this issue about power. I don't want you to get me wrong. We crave liberty. By the way, some people don't. But many do. We crave liberty. Some people crave security over liberty. You know, you ever see people, you watch how they act, and you say, what's wrong with this guy? Why doesn't he get off his ass and do something? Instead, he's on welfare. He says they're not seeking to fulfill themselves through liberty. Doesn't matter. Sustenance. That's all that matters, sustenance. So people come at things differently, but liberty is something that most people want. In little ways and some in bigger ways. But in order to have liberty, however you define it, in order to have success, in order to be able to live a full life, you must control power in its different forms. You cannot. I don't care if you're an athlete. I don't care if you're a plumber or an electrician. I don't care if you're a lawyer or a surgeon. I don't care who you are. I mean, I care, but you get my point. It doesn't matter what role you have in life, what you are pursuing in your life. You don't have the ability to do that. You don't have the liberty to do that. You don't have the free will to do that. In many societies on the face of the earth. Because they don't have mixed power. They don't have it. And so liberty, in the fullest sense of the word, is not exercised by the individual or the society. You can yearn it all you want. That's what I'm trying to say. What's it have to do with anything? It has to do with everything. When you see AOC attacking the Supreme Court, when you see AOC jumping up and down like a Nimrod for the big, fat, bloated Marxist, Bowman, who's a Jew hater, hates America, and he's not alone. When you see Bernie Sanders going off like a half-witted homeless person on a soapbox in the middle of Hilly Square, screaming about health care for all and this for all and that for all. Well, that sounds great, doesn't it? Well, ask the doctors, ask the nurses, ask the janitors who work at the hospitals, ask the technicians, ask the administrators, ask the secretaries, ask all of them if they think they should be your servant and your slave because you believe health care for all and you shouldn't have to pay anything. But that's, again, another issue. Man, this is why I do this. I could talk about 1,000 of these things, but you got to stay focused. It's like writing a book or arguing a brief or whatever it is. When you look at what the left in this country is doing, the Marxists, the Democrat Party, the media, it's all about destroying their opponents. It's all about character assassinating or caricaturing their opponents. It's all about, conversely, promoting and creating false idols, promoting a Joe Biden, cremating him as a false idol, then the public is on to it. So rather than destroy the whole enterprise, that is, the whole ideological enterprise, they're trying to figure out whether to broom him out or not, because in the end, they need to protect their enterprise, their ideology, their pursuit of power. And they can't let much get in the way. And so if they have to broom somebody out, they will, reluctantly. So that's what they're struggling over. How do we retain power, gain power? Is he the best horse to ride, yes or no? Not what's best for America. And they don't care about the individual. We talk about fentanyl. They don't care. Talk about sex slavery, child pornography on the border. They don't care. If they cared, they'd do something about it, rather than do something that, in essence, nurtures it with the wrong policy. We talk about Israel and what's going on with Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, the PLO. These poor people are just trying to survive. Do they care? No. Their Hitler Youth are in the streets supporting the other side. They're Marxists in Congress, they're Islamists in Congress, support the terrorists. They don't care about individual humanity. They talk about abortion and quote-unquote women's reproductive rights, which has nothing to do with reproductive rights. But again, the point is, to them, it's just an issue to run on. If they thought being pro-life would get them more votes from the same constituents, the same base, they'd be pro-life. They don't care. The party was for eugenics. Now they claim to be for minorities. Whatever it takes. The party that was for slavery now pretends the other party was for slavery. Whatever it takes. So now the Supreme Court, circling back to the first hour, the Supreme Court, which issues an opinion in immunity, they say is just given enormous power to the office of the presidency. When in fact it's done the opposite. It's preserved the status quo as best as it can, with one exception that doesn't really help the office of the presidency. As opposed to the president who's there attacking the court. Yet he's the most dictatorial president in terms of abusing his office, using executive orders, stealing the power of the purse from the House of Representatives, stealing the legislative power from Congress. In other words, separation of powers. He's a man who's done more damage to separation of powers than any president in modern history, or ever history period, other than maybe FDR. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Well, there's so much more I want to say about these things. But before the show is over, there's something I wanted to get to, and that's the BBC. And there's no easy way to sink this into the rest of the program. It stands out on its own, as it must. Bob Hogue over at Red State. You ready for this one? We've seen some of the deranged reactions, he writes, from the left over the Supreme Court's ruling on Monday that a president enjoys immunity for official acts. AOC is threatening to impeach justices. CNN's Jake Tapper frets that the decision gives the commander-in-chief the authority to assassinate his rivals. How sick. How stupid. A worry parroted by MSNBC legal analysts, while unhinged commenters on social media advised the president to drone strike Trump. All in all, a very impressive showing of hysteria, insanity, by democracy-loving quote-unquote progressives. One British Broadcasting Corporation presenter, COVID, seriously, took it to a whole new level, though openly encouraging Biden, ready for this, to assassinate his rival for the president. I've got to tell you something. I've told you this maybe twice before over the course of the years. I truly do fear for Donald Trump's safety. I truly do. When you step back, put the politics aside, and think about what he's been called, the lies about his threats to humanity, his threats to democracy, the comparisons to Hitler. When you think about, they say he's going to kill people, lock people up. I really am worried. My wife and I talk about this a lot, about the safety of Donald Trump. From the Democrat Party and the media, starting at the top with Mr. Nowitz. Nowitz, is that an ethnic name, Mr. Producer, Mr. Nowitz? No, Mr. Nowitz. David Aaronovitch, if that is his name, who presents BBC Radio 4's Briefing Room program, had apparently clamored for the 45th president's killing online, quote, on the basis that he is a threat to America's security. See what I mean? Posting on social media, he said, if I was Biden, I would hurry up and have Trump murdered on the basis that he is a threat to America's security, sparking instant outrage online. In response, some claim the presenter's post had amounted to an open call for violence, with others suggesting people have had police visit for a lot less. That is sick. This guy must be the British version of Keith Olbermann, he writes. The former ESPN, yeah, we know who he is. After widespread outrage, Aaronovitch deleted the tweet 90 minutes after he posted it. After leftists are wont to do, he blamed the right wing for his violent words and ludicrously claimed his post was plainly a satire. Sure it was. Not only was he inciting violence, writes the writer, but he wasn't even man enough to stand by his words. It's plainly a satire. My ass, that's a fancy British word. There was absolutely no satire or humor to his tweet. And yet, putting this fool aside, when you have Rachel Maddow, when you have Jake Tapper, when you have every bobblehead on MSLSD and the Constipated News Network, every Marxist wannabe in the Democrat Party, every demented politician, starting with the top, Mr. Demento, Mr. Biden, saying the same thing, including a Supreme Court justice in her disagreement with the rest of the court, they are laying a foundation for something I hope never occurs, which will be a horrendous event. I want to salute all you heroes out there. Thank you for being here. God bless each and every one of you. And I'll see you right here tomorrow. Take care.